your seats. All right, we'll call this special meeting to order. I'll get a pledge of allegiance, please, by Councilman Lorino.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the invocation, please, by Councilman Randolph.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you as humble as we know how, but with a lot of praise to say thank you, Lord. We thank you for your grace and mercy and for life that you've blessed us with. And Lord, as we embark upon the end of this year, Lord, we ask that you continue to bless us and our families. Keep us safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. And as of tonight, Lord, and all these councilmen, Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless each and every one of us. Bless our citizens that we represent. And Lord, we ask that you continue to bless this parish, our employees as well. And Lord, we ask a special blessing also upon Jimmy Davis, Lord. Heal his body so that he can experience a healthy recovery. It's in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Good prayer. Good job.
Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Calls on you, man. You do the.
Mr. Dean. Mr. Fitzgerald. Ms. Casabon. Mr. Lorino. Mr. Taladano. Ms. Tanner. Mr. Davis. Mr. Canulet. Mr. Smith. Ms. O'Brien. Mr. Lachlan. Mr. Bender. Mr. Airy.
Here.
And Mr. Randolph. We have a quorum.
A public comment, a 3-minute time limit is established for each member of the public wishing to speak for or against an item on the agenda accepts appeals. To ensure that all speakers are heard, please hold cheers and applause. Anyone who wishes to place a comment on the record but does not wish to speak at the podium may fill out a speaker card and check the box indicating they do not wish to speak. First off, we're going to call the acting district attorney, Mr. Colin Sims, up. I think he has a few words he'd like to say about something. I know he has another engagement to get to tonight.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me speak here. What I'm asking for right now, let me give you a little background. In 2018, the legal department for the parish had 17 and a half positions in the civil department. Once the DA's office took over the legal representation of the parish for the entire year of 2019 through our civil division, we've maintained approximately 16 positions. In 2022, the civil department removed the position, going to 15 positions, and maintained that for 2023. We have routinely turned over six-figure sums of money in budgetary authority to the parish over the last several years in monies we've not spent, and we continue to do that now. What I'm asking for is that previously we'd asked for an additional paralegal position. We don't need that. So I'm agreeing to forego that request and withdraw a request for the new position. What I'm asking is that the merit increases that we intend to give, which total approximately COLA merits $51,482, be maintained. If we maintain that based upon our current projections, we projected returning approximately $134,000 in budgetary authority for this year, for 2023. That would reduce it to approximately $82,000 that we would return this budgetary year. So that's what we're asking to be able to do within the budgetary framework that's already allocated, to give merit increases within that and still return $82,000 in budgetary authority back to the parish. In looking at the 2024 budget, it is proposed that there be a $166,000 budgetary cut. I would ask that that not enter into or affect our ability to give those merit increases, knowing that if we do those in 2023, that in 2024 to have them turn around and be cut then would be problematic. So we still anticipate returning budgetary authority back to the parish, but if we cut $166,000 from the budget on top of us returning that paralegal position, we won't be able to maintain those merit increases that we give, and to give and take away would not make a lot of sense for the office. but we continue to maintain the office at a reduced level of positions year over year, and have been consistent with returning back 100 to, I think, 180,000 at some point, at some years, back in budgetary authority. So I'd ask to be able to do that, and ask that the parish and the council consider that amendment change.
Thank you. And just to clarify, we're only talking about the civil, this is for
Civil
civil.
only.
I know
Yes,
you
sir.
wear a lot of hats as the DA, so.
Interim. Yes, sir.
Interim, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This is just the civil department only, is this request, because that's the only thing that I'm aware of which is being amended and affected. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Jerry?
Make it clear, it'd be reduced this 166 by 82,000.
So, Colin, hey, Jerry Bender, how you been?
How you doing, sir?
Good. The only thing I want to say is that I'm just going to give you a call rather than asking any questions tonight, because I don't have anything of big interest, but I do want to ask a couple of questions, and maybe we'll get a quick meeting or something.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we don't have any other questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
So with the special meeting, we had to call this for a couple reasons. One of the reasons was we obviously have budget amendments, and the parish council is charged with adopting a budget before the end of the year. And as part of our process, we had to make these amendments so we could introduce them now and then adopt them at the next, the last council meeting of this, which I guess is the 6th parish council. We also have the development code that we wanted to introduce as well, too, with a chance, or at least the opportunity potentially to adopt at the December 7th meeting. And then in the interim, there's been a few things that have come up, one of which is the Military Road Revitalization Company LLC versus St. Tammany Parish government issue. That's a matter for executive session. And so, being that we have the lawyer here who's billing us hourly, I would ask for a motion to suspend the rules so we can move that item up now and get that out of the way with before we continue on with the meeting. Moved by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
Mr. Bender, what was your vote? You didn't say it verbally. The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Okay, and then we'll have a vote to go into executive session, and pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17(2), we'll be discussing litigation when an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. So we'll be having meetings with our counsel concerning developments in the case. So that'll be the reason why we need to go into executive session. So I would entertain, moved by Councilman Toledano, second by Councilman Lorino. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
All right. Well, we will adjourn to the back council meeting room to discuss this, and as soon as we're out, we will come back and finish up the meeting. Thank you all.
I wanted to say one thing. I won't probably have this opportunity to address all you guys. I want to thank you, every one of you, for your service. I've gotten to know each one of you guys in different aspects. It's a tough job, and I want to thank you, not just from what we do here, but I lived here my whole life. I appreciate everything you guys do. You've been in the fray, and just thank you guys.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to exit executive session. Moved by Ms. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Randolph. Please vote.
Mr. Bender, what was your vote? The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
And I'll just remind everybody that no discussion of what was said in the executive session with the attorney can be discussed. We don't waive any privileges. All right, let's move back to the items on the agenda. So we have special items, ordinance for adoption, ordinance calendar number 7391, ordinance to adopt the 2024 operating budget. I believe we have some amendments. Ms. Tanner?
Okay, thank you very much. As y'all know, the budget was 300 pages, and it has taken us quite a while. I'm not sure we got through all of it, but we tried to do what we could. We're going to offer some amendments, which I think Leslie will read, but I want to make this statement. These amendments that we are proposing on the operating and the capital budget ordinances are intended to promote fiscal responsibility. From this point on, this council and the 2024 council needs to look at a standstill budget with the goal to decrease expenses where appropriate. Some of these changes include no cost of living increase, level spending for travel, supplies, and overhead, cuts to non-essential capital assets, and maintaining a standstill budget for the coroner's office. Also, keep in mind that we are not cutting any of the mandated costs that the administration, they had already cut mandated costs when it was in this budget. We are not cutting any of those. Those will remain as is in the budget. It is not enough that what they requested, but we are not taking any cuts from them. The parish financial situation is well known, and this parish continues to increase in its budgets while not solving the revenue deficit regarding to the general fund. While the parish has dedicated funds to operate and maintain its roads and drainage, it does not have adequate funding for the Justice Center and jail maintenance. Further, the general fund is at, we only collect $14 million. Our request this year alone from all mandated costs was $49 million. This now with the loss of the public health millage, this compounds our deficit. Additional cost-saving measures will be needed to determine the 2024 to account for the loss of revenue. The amendments tonight are an exercise in fiscal restraint in light of the mounting deficit for our judicial system. And also, please keep in mind that we are trying, our first attempt at trying to cut expenses before we take any other action. Also, tonight we are not, we have, I think, done one thing for Safe Haven. I'm going to ask that the 2024 council form a committee to look at Safe Haven and its operations. With the loss of the millage, the public health millage, we have a crisis now on that too. So with this, I'll ask Leslie to read the amendments.
Yes, ma'am. And so before each of the council members is an amended ordinance, both for the operating fund, and that's the one that we're discussing right now, which is ordinance calendar 7391. And attached to this ordinance, this amendment is an administrative comment, which I'll begin listing the amendments that are included in the ordinance. Amendment 1, to remove expenditures related to the sewer inspection review program, which has not yet been implemented. This is in the Department of Environmental Services, and we have a list of the types of expenses that are being reduced. The reduction to the operating or associated expenses is $36,000, and for salaries, benefits, and for the trucks that were going to be purchased, that's another, it's a total of $500,000. Amendment 2 is to remove the 3% COLA that was proposed, wage adjustments, a 1% wage adjustment pool, and all new positions in the St. Anne Parish departments and the Civil Division of the District Attorney's Office. Those, there's a schedule attached, and each of the columns represent each of those changes. The total reduction in costs or expenditures is $2,764,006. The Amendment 3, to adjust expenditures related to professional services and/or contractual services to reduce some professional services to 2023 projected actuals. This had to do with primarily like A&E expenses, architectural and engineering. We're removing $50,000 from the parish council that was for general professional services. We are adding professional services in the parish council office for a financial consultant, $50,000. Adding in the parish council office legal services pertaining to the Charter Review Commission, $25,000. Reducing maintenance of equipment at the Fairgrounds Arena by $4,000. Reducing in Public Works Administration general survey services by $7,500. Reducing in the Department of Development general professional services, reducing them by $274,500. In the Utility Operations Division, we're removing engineering services for the evaluation of generator sizing at all sites, $200,000. And in the Department of Development, reducing general consulting services by $109,000. Those total $570,000 is the net reduction to professional services. Amendment 4, Amendment 4 will remove budget for capital expenditures at the fairgrounds, the Tammany Trace, and for the vehicles that were proposed for the new positions. At the fairgrounds, we are removing a tractor with attachments, $75,000. In Public Works, at the Tammany Trace Maintenance, we're removing two pieces of equipment, one a 2/3 yard dump truck and a utility vehicle for a total of $95,000. And in Department of Environmental Services, we're reducing the number of trucks that we're purchasing from 4 to 2 due to the removal of 2 new positions. That's $84,000 reduction. In the Department of Utilities, we're reducing the number of trucks we're purchasing from 5 to 3, and that is also due to a reduction in the new positions that had been proposed for the Department of Utilities. Total is $338,000 reduction. Amendment 5, we're going to decrease the transfer of ad valorem taxes to the St. Anne Parish Coroner so that it is equal to 2023. The amount proposed was $7.5 million. We're reducing that by just almost $1 million, $941,886. And it will be, the amended amount will be $6,622,218. Amendment 6, we're going to, as part of all the reductions to the different administrative departments for the COLA and the salaries and benefits, that will then adjust the cost allocation plan charges that were charged out to all the other funding sources. So you'll see an adjustment to all funds for a reduction in the cost allocation plan. Amendment 7 is to adjust in the Highway 21 Economic Development District, which funds some of the costs for the fairgrounds and the airport based on the changes that we made. That's a total of $97,650 less expenses in those two areas that will then be funded by the Economic Development District. Amendment 8 will adjust the transfer of funds from operating to capital for the following projects in Sales Tax District 3. And I can name all these, but they're all listed, and then we're going to name them during the capital budget as well. So I'll list each one when we go to the capital budget. But it's a total of $4,046,000 in projects that are less funding that will be moving to capital because we're removing projects from that budget. We're going to increase a transfer from drainage maintenance by $100,000, and that's for a new project at Meadow Lake Catch Basins. Amendment 9, on the original ordinance, we had a typo in the Special Revenue Fund 107 Judicial Courts Fund. The description of the minimum fund balance read 1 year gross revenue, and it should have read 3 months operating costs. The calculation was correct, but the description was wrong. And then at the bottom of then following those 9 amendments, we have a recap of those amendments by fund, and all total in the operating expenses will go down or being reduced $4.6 million. The transfers to capital are being reduced $4 million, and that's a total impact of the amendments or $8,593,393.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. There's one adjustment I need to make since DA Sims was here and said he gives back money, does not use all the money. He's requested the 3% for civil to be reinstated, and I would like to offer that too as this amendment. I make a motion.
And I was just going to point out that according to the schedule of the 3%, so this is the 60,000 that's reported under wage adjustments is actually equal to 4%. So we'll calculate what that 3% is.
Yes, please.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to reinstate
To amend.
this amendment to reinstate the civil DA merit increase.
With this. And also, I'd like to thank Leslie and their staff. This was not an easy project because we were throwing things to them to adjust, and they worked very hard to get this ordinance, the amendment done. Thank you, Leslie, for y'all's work.
So procedurally, we'll have to do that. Do you want to talk on this amendment or the whole amendment as a whole?
I want to ask a question.
On this particular one? Okay, good.
It's going to be brief. Ms. Leslie, I echo what my colleague, Ms. Tanner, said. You're always terrific.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, that was brief, Jerry.
I can't take credit. Annie's the one who crunched all the numbers. I reviewed and edited it and made my comments, but she
Got
actually
it.
did all the number crunching.
Got it. I got one question,
Uh-huh.
okay? You know, when Reichert, a couple of years or so ago, asked us to put together that committee that he formed to look at the, you know, how do we deal with the mandated expenses, okay? There we go.
Revenue Review Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I participated in that to some degree. It seems like to me that the numbers talked about back then that were needed were in the $22 to $25 million range. How have the requests for mandated expenses gone up to $49 million this year?
Jerry, if we just could procedurally, because we have an amendment to this, if we can get that done, and then we can talk about the general, because we have to vote on the amendment to the amended ordinance.
I'm happy
Just on the 4%.
Happy to do
I
it.
don't know if
Or I
anybody.
think it was 3%.
3%, I'm sorry.
3%.
I'm happy
That's
to do it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Yep.
well, let's vote. If there's no more questions on that, let's vote on that.
Mine just doesn't work.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
All right, and now we can talk about if you wanted to ask your question about the general.
How did we go from 25 million, Reichert said? Is it 49 million requested mandate?
Yes, and if you look at the last page of the administrative comment here, we did update the previous administrative comment, which has a analysis of the general fund and the mandated agencies, and it tells you by agency how much each agency requested. And so we did have large increases from that Revenue Review Advisory Committee after we met in, I think it was the 2022 budget request that came from both the sheriff's office for the jail and from the district attorney's office, increased by, I wouldn't say they increased by $20 million, but they increased by millions of dollars.
Okay, Leslie, rather than going over this right now, I'll give you a call
Sure.
during the week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can pull those reports.
Remember, that is council's request. That's
Yeah.
not what we actually
Oh, sure.
funded or what we think we should fund.
Good point,
What
thank
we
you.
think is reasonable.
Yes.
That's what they
Correct.
requested.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Councilman
Thank you, Mr.
Laughlin?
Chairman.
You're good? All right, so if there's no other questions on the amendment, I just a motion and second to introduce the amended budget, or the budget with these amendments. Moved by Mr. Tanner, second by
Second.
That's it.
Mr. Canulet, sorry. All right, so we just have to move and second on that. All right, and then I guess now we're gonna go to the operating, you can,
We're going to go to the capital,
capital, I'm sorry, we just did operating.
okay? And
Ms.
Leslie.
Tanner?
Oh, do you want to? Oh,
Today, microphone's on, isn't it? Oh, I gotta get closer. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
it
sorry. On behalf of the district attorney, I want to thank you for the amendment that you made today. It will help us provide the legal civil services that we've provided in the past at the highest quality. Even though this is a budget amendment, we have generally not spent 100% of our budget from 2018, when we took over the civil department, to 2022. We underspent our budget authority by $622,000. By this year, we project we will underspend our budget authority by $135,000. So this is a budget amendment. We're not going to waste the money. What Mr. Sims told you in his opening statement stands true. We will not fill a paralegal position. We do need to, however, give COLA or merit raises to some of our employees so we keep the criminal and civil staff in sync with each other and in line. And so I thank you for your opportunity to be here today.
Moving to the capital, Ms. Tanner?
okay, Leslie, you want to read? The statement still holds why we're doing this. We're trying to come back to 2023, a standstill budget, get as close as we can, and then do further cuts as we go along.
So
Leslie?
this is ordinance calendar 7392, and we also distributed an amended ordinance to the council, and it's available here at the council chambers to the public. And I think the easiest thing is to go to the administrative comment that's attached. It follows the ordinance after the signature page, and this recaps the items. So we start with the projects that are being removed. In Sales Tax District 3, parish-wide roads and drainage, removing 4 feasibility studies, budgets for 4 feasibility studies. Harrison Avenue extension to LA 36, Judge Tanner Boulevard extension to LA 59, LA 59, LA 1088 Connector Road, and the Slidell-Lacombe Connector Road. In District Roads, in District 11, we're removing Camelot Drive. In District 11, removing Dove Street. In District 13, removing West End Boulevard. In Sales Tax District 3, from the Tammany Trace, this is pre-construction engineering budgets for Trace Bridges, Bridge 5 at Bayou Paquet, Bridge 7 at Bayou Lacombe, Bridge 8 at, I don't know, Heltemes Lane, Bridge 9 at West Elm Street, Bridge 10 Cane Bayou, Bridge 11 Big Branch Marsh, Bridge 12 Cane Bayou, Bridge 14 Bayou Castine Tributary, Bridge 15 Bayou Castine Tributary, Bridge 17 at Bayou Chinchuba, Bridge 22 at Southwind Branch, and Bridge 23 at LA 36 South Tributary. Those projects being removed total $4,146,000. Then the projects that are being added for infrastructure in District Roads, District 13, Amber Street, $100,000. In parish-wide drainage, Meadow Lake catch basins, $100,000. In coastal restoration from Go Mesa funding, abandoned vessels removal program, $150,000. Those 3 projects being added add to $350,000. Capital assets that are being removed in the general fund from the Fairgrounds Arena, a tractor with attachments, $75,000. At Tammany Trace Maintenance, a 2/3 yard dump truck and a utility vehicle totaling $95,000. In environmental services, 2 light-duty trucks at $42,000 each, $84,000. In utilities, 2 light-duty trucks at $42,000 each, $84,000. Total capital assets being removed, $338,000.
Thank you, Leslie. I make a motion to amend the ordinance.
Motion by Ms. Tanner. Second by Mr. Toledano. Do we need to vote on that? Yeah, please vote.
What kind of trucks are we buying for 42,000?
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
All right, and then I'll need a motion and second to reintroduce as amended. Second, motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Canulet. All right. All right, moving to ordinance for introduction, Development Code ordinances, ordinance calendar number 7465, ordinance to rename and reorganize existing Part 2 Land Development Code, LDC of the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinance to reestablish Part 2 as a Unified Development Code, UDC, update standards, excuse me, within and across Part 2 Unified Development Code in keeping with best practices, and to streamline, simplify, and improve overall code navigation parish-wide. Ms. Irizabal, would you like to?
Hi, I would like to read a letter that was prepared regarding the efforts with the Unified Development Code. As you, our current council members, are aware, the process of updating the Development Code started and stopped several times over the last 7 years. The business community faithfully attended regular meetings with Ross Liner, the Planning Department, and the team of consultants. In the true spirit of collaboration, all parties were invested in finding solutions to produce a fair and comprehensive set of rules and regulations to govern development in the parish. We appreciated being at the table for such an important initiative, and we are very, very close. The final draft of the proposed UDC will increase the cost of building and development in every phase, from permit fees to stricter requirements. This was expected. However, there are a few critical issues that we would like amended before we can support adoption. For a 750-page document, our 10 items to be amended are a very small part of the overall effort. While these changes have a monumental effect on the cost of St. Tammany home buyers, they are truly inconsequential to the spirit of the document itself, and in fact will help reduce the workload and the burden on the administrative staff. Our critical issues, number one, is the requirement of a 50-foot natural buffer around the entire subdivision. I'm going to limit what I say because I know I won't make it in time, but council members have been given this letter too. Our recommendation is a 50-foot natural buffer on roadways and allow this buffer to include the drainage and utility servitudes. Number two, the tree survey and requirement of hard fencing. Our recommendation is to keep as it is in the current code, whether commercial or residential property, continue to allow for the semi-permanent orange fencing. Number three is the PUD. Our concern is that the new code has the potential to eliminate PUDs, and there are better ways to restrict density than eliminating a PUD. So our recommendation is to keep the current PUD overlay, but control the density by capping the number of lots per acre on a residential zoned areas of the PUD to 3 single-family lots per acre, and to keep the minimum requirement for PUDs at 10 acres rather than the new 30-acre minimum. There's more about the PBC. We think that the 15,000 square feet is an error, and the 7,500 height restriction was lowered, and we'd like that to be back as it is in the current code, with 50% of the lot area being developed. We recommend to increase 25 to 100 as the definition of a major subdivision. We recommend that penalty or fines increase in severity with the third offense prohibiting permits.
Being you have this letter, I'll give you 2 more minutes so you can get through it, because otherwise I'm going to read it, so I'd rather you do it.
Thank you, Councilman Airy. Thank you very much. Okay, so the work order prohibited, I'm on number 7 now. The 12-month probation period for a developer is extreme. Our concerns is that this penalty could potentially bankrupt a business if a permit cannot be granted for a year. Recommendation would be for the penalty or the fine to increase in severity, with the third offense being where you would actually have a permit prohibited. Number 8, the requirement of 580 square feet of green space for every lot in addition to the 50-feet buffer. Our recommendation is that this be included in the 50-foot buffer. The roadways, the requirement to add the 4 feet paved shoulders to uncurbed roadways. Our recommendation is to leave as the current code is and enforce the ordinance on the shoulder widths. That seemed to be an okay solution in one of the work groups, so this could be an error, but we would rather remove this requirement and go ahead and enforce, who's not doing it, enforce the ordinance on them. Directional drilling, our recommendation is that directional drilling under roadways should be allowed to be uncased as per DOTD standards. And the traffic impact ordinance unfairly hurts the last business in on a corridor when that business triggers the level of service from a C to a D. So our recommendation is to keep consistent with DOTD and the current UDC at 100 peak hour trips. The current code as presented will significantly increase developmental costs, which translates to higher price lots. We are already experiencing increased costs due to supply chain issues, inflation, and rising insurance and interest rates. We propose that you allow 6 months to correct, clarify, and amend any other areas of the UDC, and we commit our continued participation with staff, consultants, to see that the final product is in its best form to meet the needs of our growing and exceptional parish. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and we'll enter a copy of that into the record as well.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Lorino? And this is just for introduction right now, too, as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, before we get started, Mr. Randolph highlighted Mr. Jimmy Davis, and I'd just like to take a minute to thank him for all the work that he did personally on this, and I know he would really like to be here tonight. And we need to keep him in our prayers, and I just wanted to say that. Would you mind if we call Mr. Liner up and I ask him a question or two?
I'm sure he probably minds it, but...
No?
Don't mind at all.
Good evening, Ross.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Ross, thank you, number one, to you, your staff, and the consultants. We also had a work group that put in a lot of time, and we're not finished with the project, but we really got it started, and I just wanted to say that right off the top.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got it started in 2017, and
I understand.
the first year I was here, that summer, it was COVID, and
Right.
I was getting calls from, a lot of stakeholders in this parish educating me. I was at home, like with everybody else, and learning about the code. It was, like I said, it was the first few months I was here, and we were just going through the code. So it started in 2017 with you, and you continued on with the committee to this day. So
Thank you very much. Ross, I just want to comment on a couple of things. Miss Amy came up and she made some very good points. I know it went out to everyone. I think some may have received it on Monday before Thanksgiving. And here we are tonight, talking about just introducing it, but it will come up next month for adoption. But on the good side, out of all of them that we changed, there's only 10 that they brought up just now.
Look,
I think that's a miracle.
Out of 800 pages or so?
I think that's a
I hear you.
Christmas miracle.
I'm pretty
all right?
happy.
But nevertheless, I hope that you can sit down and meet with them between tomorrow and our council meeting and work on those issues and try to rectify as many as you can. I highly doubt, since 2017, I've been watching it, I highly doubt that you're going to handle all of them. But nevertheless, if you do not, I'm going to be looking at the ones that were not handled, and I probably will make an amendment at the next meeting, which I'll ask the council to consider, adding them on as an amendment, which in turn will allow what I think the new council to really have it. So I just want to let you know the process that I hope you can do. I hope you include me on that if I can make the meetings.
Sure.
I'll be happy to do it. But once again, I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate it, and I know everybody up here does.
Yep,
And,
I'll commit to meeting with them before the council meeting and report back and invite you to attend if you're able to.
Yes, sir. Thank you Mr. Chairman. And I'll make a motion.
Well, we got Councilman Toledano in the queue.
Okay.
And Ross, sort of reiterate what Mike said about your effort on this, and I appreciate it. And I also want to thank Amy and her group for the untiring effort that they put forth in this to look at this thing on a piece-by-piece, paragraph, sentence-by-sentence basis to come up with these. And virtually all of the ones that she suggested make good sense to me, and in fact, I think I would be in favor of all of them, which doesn't mean much, because if we vote in January, I won't be here, but that's okay. So with that having in mind, I want to sort of reinforce what Mike said too about how are you going to mechanically look at their suggestions and hopefully maybe bring them back in terms of recommendations before we adopt this.
Just the way we've been doing it for the past year and a half, as Amy stated, they've been a part of this process like many other
Okay.
stakeholders, and we meet and we talk and we discuss, and we come to a resolution. Sometimes we don't, but we'll report back on what we did and what we didn't accomplish.
Okay. And I might ask you to do a written memo report on that.
Yeah, I think that's probably best.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Councilman Bender?
So, Miss Amy, thank you. I'm sorry about the mix-up on my part from yesterday.
Oh, that's okay, thank you.
I sincerely apologize. And Ross, thank you for your efforts. I'm not going to reiterate what Mike and Riker and everybody said. Obviously, Jimmy's put in a fine effort in the work group as well, and all of you as well.
Yeah, he's not here. I should thank him as well. I mean, Jimmy Councilman Davis did a tremendous effort on this.
That's what Mr. Lorino was saying, and I believe Mr. Lorino.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now, you want to know if I believe you? I do believe you. So, just a quick question. When the meeting that you would be having before the council meeting that Mr. Lorino asked to attend, would that be with Miss Amy invited as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
That's where we're coordinating.
I would like to also be included, if you don't mind, in that meeting, okay? All right, thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Lorino, second, I would say Mr. Davis in spirit, but since he's not here, Mr. Canulette can pretend to be Mr. Davis. All right. All right, moving on, ordinance calendar number 7466, ordinance to relocate existing finance and economic development districts in existing Part 2, Chapter 120, Planning and Development of the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinance, not having an impact on development standards or permitting to Part 1, Chapter 2, Administration, Article XI, Special District Budgets, retitle Article 11, Special District Budgets to Special Districts, and treat elements like board, creation, boundaries, authority, and budget comprehensively. It's parish-wide. I don't know who really sponsored this one. Moved by, did you want to talk about this one a little bit?
It's literally just moving out of Part 2 into Part 1, it's just in the wrong section, so there's no change in text, it's just moving positions.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Lorino. I don't think we have to vote on it, we're just introducing.
No vote necessary.
Okay. All right, this next one, ordinance amending the code, ordinance calendar number 7324, ordinance to amend St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, sections 130-918, 130-945, 130-969, to remove the term apartments from the definition of lodging as set forth in those ordinances and exempt certain zone parcels with zoning as of right. There's an amendment that's been requested because this is being appealed. If we're not going to adopt the amendment, then this will be on the council agenda as an appeal on December 7th. So I think you all are aware of the amendment. Is there a motion and a second to amend? So there will be no amendment to it, so this will be on the agenda for December 7th for the appeal. All right, moving on to resolutions, Council Series number C-, 6851, resolution to approve recommendations and authorize Civil Division Assistant District Attorney to proceed with the settlement of a charge entitled Charge Number 461-2022-00720, Zachary Cooney. This is motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Councilman Toledano. Please vote.
Mr. Laughlin. The motion passes with 11 yeas, 2.
We were on the settlement of the EEOC claim one. Yes, Resolution 1.
Is your vote the same? Yes. Motion passes with 11 yeas, 2 nays, and 1 absent.
Moving on to number 2, Resolution Council Series Number C-6852, resolution to authorize the Parish President Administration to apply for, commit, contract, and utilize $1,500,000 in community development block grant funding to be utilized for infrastructure in conjunction with the development of workforce housing in District 2 of St. Tammany Parish. Seeing the lack of action on number 1, if somebody wants to make a motion to remove this item or to postpone it indefinitely, which is about the same thing, we can do that. All right. So motion to postpone indefinitely by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Dean. There are some cards on this, but I assume based on it that people would be happy with that result. So sometimes when winning you might want to stop, but I'll let you, if anybody wants to come comment on that motion. Okay, seeing none, please vote.
The motion passes with 12 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 absent.
All right, I think that's it, right? All right, motion to adjourn.